July 27, 2004. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow our heads. Lord, thank you for allowing us to meet this evening and help us in our decisions we make for the citizens of Newman tonight. Amen. Amen. A roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker.
Present.
Marquez.
Present.
Martinez.
Present.
Reed.
Present.
Mayor Vanderbilt.
Present. Declaration of conflicts of interest. I believe we have none tonight. Item 6, ceremonial matters. I have none this evening. Item 7, communications from staff. Any communications? Passing the buck there? Oh.
As you can see, we're all rushing up here. Just an update on the business park. We've been having troubles again with PG&E and their engineers not performing in the manner of which they're telling us. So, as I mentioned in my previous meeting, we have now the ear of the government relations officer, and he is repeatedly getting emails from me every other day. So he has assured me that this will be done in a timely manner. As much so as the person who wasn't returning our calls all of a sudden started returning my calls, and then we'll be meeting everybody in the field tomorrow at 10 a.m. to go over all the issues on this stuff. And we hope to be moving forward. And Mark Hendrickson of PG&E, the government relations officer, once again has promised me that this thing will move forward in a timely manner. So,
if you have trouble, bring it back to us in the next meeting. We've talked about this extensively. The mayor, you kind of ironed things out at one point.
We kind of got hooked up with the one guy that wasn't returning your calls now, but
yeah, we got hooked up.
Sounds like he is again.
There's a couple different guys, and I wish I could tell you why they're not returning our calls. But the bottom line is they've dropped the ball, and the guy who got chewed out, because I could tell in his voice when he called me back, was very apologetic and couldn't make any excuses. Just basically that we dropped the ball and that we will make sure that this thing gets done in a timely manner. And was once again very apologetic. But again, that doesn't get our improvements done. Let's get them done, and then we'll wash it over. So.
That's good. Michael, I noticed Granite was back. Are they going to run out of work before they show back up PG&E, or hopefully not?
We're hoping they're not, but more than likely they are, and that's been the main topic in my emails to Mark Hendrickson is hey, Granite's back out there. We met with you on June 28th. Subsequent to that, on July 1st, Steve Murphy came out, met in the field with Ernie and Zach, who's our public works inspector. He said that they would be out in the field, PG&E would be out in the field in 2 weeks, and it was a 1-week job. So I was calling last week saying, this is week 3, nobody's out here, and I don't even have a phone call. What's going on here, guys? You need to get back to us on that. So I called up, and Steve Murphy called me back, and I said, what's your schedule? This is already the 3rd week. And he said, well, I'll call you back. And I waited a day. He didn't call me back. And then I started emailing the government relations officer again and telling him that this is what's going on, and people are getting stonewalled here, and someone needs to be held accountable because, this has gone on too long. So I've CC'd the city manager on all these email requests. So if any of you want them forwarded to you, we could make sure that they get to you as well.
I think it's important, if they're readily admitting that they dropped the ball, and we've been dealing with them for some time now, this council has in specific, maybe we need to kick the ball. They dropped the ball, maybe we need to kick it to kind of kickstart things a little bit, but so that you can handle at the staff level and get some progress. That would be wonderful.
After tomorrow's meeting, I will relay the information to the city manager, and he can keep you all informed accordingly.
Thank you, Michael. Ernie, do you have something this evening too? Public Works.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I do have some informational items, and I do have a PowerPoint, so pictures worth 1,000 words. That's awfully dark here. Anyway, this is the Joe M. Bourbon Park. It's over in the Lucas Ranch area. It was just approved and accepted by the city a couple of months ago at the most. And It's over an acre. It's got some a grove of trees over to the west. It's got a half-court basketball play area over on the east side of it, and it's got a handicap-accessible drinking fountain. This is over in the Creek Bridge Subdivision Park. This is about a 3-acre area. This is looking northwest from Walnut Street. And there's just some trees sporadically placed throughout the area. As you can see, there's some issues with the turf, so they're still working on this. This park has not been accepted. And this is just a picture of that basin area. This is over in the Stevens Ranch Subdivision Park area. As you can tell, there's quite a few areas where you haven't had much growth on the grass and some standing water. And this is looking to the north on it. And this also hasn't been approved and accepted by the city. And then here we have the Newman Teen Center. This is a new project that was just completed. As you can tell, you can see it's quite a difference now. And that used to be nothing but a dirt and dusty area. Now it's got sod and trees throughout that area. The contractor is responsible for 60 days of additional maintenance and mowing the turf area and upkeep of the park. One of the main points about all these additional park areas is that we have 2 tired lawnmowers. They're diesel.
Our mic is tired too, sounds like.
Yes, it does.
Here.
We do have.
Voting yours, yeah, Steve. More now.
Time out.
Budget cuts. Just tapping on that. Just tapping on that real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Probably like that.
Ernie,
Class 101 and how to change a battery.
can I interrupt you for a second, Ernie? Could you make this same presentation to Parks and Rec Commission on these new facilities?
Sure, it's still not working. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. But we presently have about 20 acres of park area that we need to mow on a weekly basis. And now with these additional parks that are being added, we're looking at about an additional 10 acres. And we have 2 diesel-powered lawnmowers that we bought almost 10 years ago. They're constantly down and in the shop. So we're going to be either needing to ask for assistance in contracting these park areas out, or having to hire additional personnel and equipment. But we'll be coming back with a report to the council on that. Any questions you may have?
No, Ernie, I think, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I think it would be appropriate for me to make a couple of comments, only because the parks did draw some interest of mine. Your pictures are much better than the ones that I took. I actually took a couple of Polaroid pictures. Looking at the definitive part when we make a decision whether or not a park is complete for a neighborhood, and you just showed us the 2 that are not. One of the considerations that I saw, and in particular looking at the park at Ranchwood, was all the other parks looked as if they've been sodded. And this one definitely has not been sodded. You can clearly see the gaping holes, and there's a ridge on that particular park that's all dirt. You can't see it in this particular picture, but backing up to the homes, it's a ridge full of dirt. One of the considerations, I think, because I know that for certain we've directed staff to tie the completion of their park to further permits being issued, is that that park be shored up to become as nice as the other parks in our community. I think it's only right and it's only fair that each section of our community are given the same type of attention. And so, having spoke with some of the residents in that area, you know, currently it being unacceptable and incomplete, I think that that is certainly something to look forward to have that one as nice as the other.
Ernie, is that the case though, as far as them using the different materials, or is it a matter of there being a longer time period on the other ones? Is that why it's had the opportunity to grow in?
Yes and no. The Joanne Borba Park, it was fescue, it was seed, but in the areas where they had issues, problems with it growing right, they did bring in sod, and they put in large sections of sod so it would grow properly. Over at the Creek Bridge subdivision area, again, that was all seed also, but they also had some issues with some of the seed not being scattered correctly, or that the ground was uneven, or the sprinklers didn't operate properly and they didn't maintain it properly. And so until they can get it together, Creek Bridge has not, they have been asking for acceptance, but they have been denied.
So it could be possibly a combination of the two.
It could be a combination of the two.
Because one of the reasons why I bring that up is, you know, we came up with the extra expense to sod the youth park, which looks really nice. And I think if we're going to be on top of our parks, then we should try to have a consistency, and everyone benefits, including the development, for offering a really nice product. Thank you for that report.
Sure.
Ernie, I got one quick question.
Yes.
When did you take the pictures of the teen center area?
Yesterday.
Okay. It looked like on the west end of it that the brown had kind of gone out. Looked like it turned green again. Did it, or is it still brown?
It's starting to turn green again. What happened there is that was overwatering. It had puddled in there, and so we remedied that situation.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ernie.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and council members, my report for the month of July. It was a busy month for the finance department, with it being the first month of the new fiscal year and also the deadline for numerous annual reports. Starting off the month, we implemented the city's Section 125 plan, which is a plan that enables the city's employees to have money taken out of their paycheck pre-tax and use it for unreimbursed medical expenses and or dependent care. And as of today, we have 3 employees that are participating in that program. And based on those 3 employees, I estimate that the city is going to save approximately $700 this fiscal year in the Social Security and Medicare taxes alone. And in addition to that, during the month, we also implemented a 3.33% increase in salaries, and that was as required per the MOU, the current MOU, which is set to expire after this year. Additionally, the finance department, we funded a first-time home buyers grant to a local citizen for $70,000, and that was funded through program income funds. We had a payoff of a revolving business loan, and that was for approximately $19,000, which can now be used to reinvest in other community business loans. Additionally, we had the auditors from the firm, the CPA firm of R.J. Riccardi, in the offices during the month, who were doing preliminary audit work. I anticipate them to be back in the offices approximately September with their final audit and financials presented to the council no later than December 31st of this year. Additionally, I have been working on updating the city's 0405 budget, making it a more user-friendly budget, and putting in the final staffing levels for all departments. And I will have a copy of that budget to the council by the 17th of August. for your review and approval on the 24th council meeting. If that's the end of my report, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Captain? Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Chief?
The last but not least. Okay. Good evening, council and members of the audience. One of the things I want to kind of go over is some of the things that we've been doing. One is we have officers participating in Avoid the 12. That's a DUI enforcement action. The last one was in Modesto on July 17th during that X-Fest music festival they had there in the downtown area. And that's also reimbursable we get, by the state, so we'll be getting funds back for what's been expended on that. We have 2 officers that are going to be attending bicycle patrol training starting this Monday, and after that we're looking at implementing a downtown bicycle patrol on a regular basis, at least a couple times a week when we have enough staff at that point. And I want to remind you too that you also received letters in the mail for the August 11th meeting between the law enforcement executives and other city council members and board of supervisors regarding a countywide approach towards the gang violence. That's, just want to remind you, that's at 6 p.m. at the Harvest Hall next to the sheriff's office. And last, we have had a very sharp increase in auto theft, and we've had about 9 this month alone. Last year we had 26 for the entire year, so this is a great increase. And we're looking at part of the problem is just opportunity for these thefts. Vehicles left running in the driveway, and security systems not used, windows down, keys in ignition, and those kind of things. So we're looking at trying to do an educational thing at this point with the use of the paper with an article going in there, and hopefully being able to drop that. And we're also doing it through other investigations and working with CHP and the StanCat, which is the Auto Theft Task Force for Stanislaus County. And that's probably all I'm going to report on at this point. I left you a crime log that we have for this last year, so you can see it, or last week, so you kind of see how we've been relatively busy. And I'll answer any kind of questions you may have if you have some.
Chief, are you going to be emphasizing the use of the club? I know it's a big deterrent oftentimes.
Well, one of the things, that would be one of the things that I'm working with this group called StanCat. They are, that's the Auto Theft Task Force for Stanislaus County, and they are looking at putting in a grant with the Winner Corporation who manufactures the club. And when that comes about, then we'll be looking at trying to do a reduced cost for people, and we're looking at how we'll be able to distribute those out. So it's just one fact that it's going to be a multifaceted thing. But at this point, I'm just looking at trying to reduce the amount that we've had, and that's by the opportunity, the easy thefts, trying to reduce those by just simple things that people can do on their own and for things they already have available to them. If they have a security system, you use it. If they have the club or a similar type of device to implement those kind of things. And just take the keys out and lock it up. That's really what it takes to really make an impact.
Okay, and then on the issue of the letter regarding the gangs and the informational for Nexus in specific, August the 11th, I will be able to attend for some time into that meeting. I have a county board meeting that night with Stan Carr.
Oh,
so
good.
I will be able to attend. For
Well, thank you for coming. That'd be great. Need all the input we can on tackling that issue. Anything else?
Mike, one question, the bicycle patrol, what would be the hours that they would operate?
We'll be looking at the evening hours, not much because that's when we're looking at a lot more foot traffic in that downtown area. Also, I don't think I can get the officers to ride in this heat during those early hours. So, looking at trying to get when the kids are out and about, and we got a lot of foot traffic out there, so they'd have a bigger impact, and we get a better bang for our buck.
Thank you.
Up to about 8 or 9 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah, probably going up to 9, maybe a little bit later than that. And it wouldn't be just specifically in the downtown area. That's just a very small area just to be riding up and down. So it'll be pretty much throughout the community, the shopping center, but an emphasis on that downtown area.
Thank you.
When do you think we'd start that, Chief?
Well, they're going to be in school for about 2 weeks. So after that, it's probably about a week or so after that. We've got people on vacation, so probably about mid-August.
Mid-August. Great.
So, and then we're also, like I said, we had this Avoid the 12 for the X-Fest from Modesto. We also had that in a small portion because we're kind of a small community. Didn't want to have 20 officers trying to do DUI patrol in our community, but we were looking at we had about 4 during the Newman Fun Run, that were from different cities. It was, I thought it was appropriate size for us. We're also looking for the same thing for the Fall Festival coming up in September. So,
Great.
great. Anything else?
No more questions. Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief.
Item 8, items from the public, non-agenda items. If anybody has anything they would like to bring before us that is not on the posted agenda, now's the time. Seeing nothing, we'll move on to agenda items. Oh, sure.
For the record, my name is Greg Hosteller, and I'm with Ranchwood Homes. And I like the presentation earlier tonight, and it's rather actually timely. Under the agreement, as best I know it, for that particular area, that development, half that park was supposed to have been completed with the acceptance of Phase 3 of Stevens Ranch. And I think we had that deferred so that we could build the entire park together all as one unit, because we thought that would work out better. And I thought, as the owner, that we were on target to complete these things timely out there. We hired a professional landscaper and started work out there. And one of the issues we ran into is the same issues you're running into is with PG&E. We've got to have power to run the pumps and the timers, etc. That ran over, and we don't just have that problem there, and you're not by yourself here in Newman. That issue, we have it in a number of cities that we work in, and as well as our ranch. And we waited somewhere like 9 months for just a connection and a pole move just for a well that runs our almond booster pumps for irrigation. We ultimately moved in a generator to run our almonds. So my people said, well, we're delayed in the park. I said, move a generator. And so they moved the generator over finally to connect it, to make things work, run the test run. And that has delayed the progress of the park. Although in our view of it, which is not real definitive anywhere, I think, as best I can tell, we thought that the park being complete was when construction stopped and that the maintenance period started. So we made that assumption. Based on my conversation with Ernie earlier, that his opinion, or maybe the opinion, at least his view of what the city's position is that that's not exactly quite the timeline. And the reason I'm up here talking to you is that we thought that we would be on the agenda tonight because we thought the park was done, and we thought it was actually done. We thought before we got 2 phases, or the entire park done, before the acceptance of the improvements in Phase 3. So we thought the improvements for Phase 3 would be on the agenda tonight for acceptance so that the homeowners could move in next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. I was told today that it wouldn't be on the agenda because there was some concern about the park not being complete, although we thought it was complete. I guess I'm here more for information to the council and to staff to see if we can beg for some mercy for these homeowners. If you don't accept it, the improvements, if there's some way we can allow the homeowners so that they're not penalized, so that they can move in and we'll pay the continued park maintenance or extended park maintenance. And if required, we'll do some additional things that benefit the city. If it likes some additional trees, I'm more or less here with my hat in my hand. I don't think the city's wrong. It's just that we thought that we were complete, and we hired a professional landscaper to get the work done. And there's a different timeline. In some cities, when the construction is completed, you have completed your work, and then your maintenance period starts, and then your 1-year warranty also is extended after that. So, for our lack of maybe understanding how that's done, because this is our first park we've built here, we'd hate to see the homeowners penalized. We'd rather see the builder penalized or take responsibility, let's say, for some of the cost or some benefit to the community and or the homeowners. Some way that the homeowners be accommodated which doesn't penalize them, and we're responsible for any, maybe if there's additional accommodation to be made to anybody.
So, Mr. Oswald, in other words, the bare spots in the park and stuff, you're saying it was due to the lack of water, electric to the pumps to irrigate the park. That's why you're behind on the park, getting the park done. Is that what happened, or?
The construction schedule wasn't as timely as it could because they didn't have power to complete the work and do the seeding and the sodding, etc. I think I don't know the exact cause of every issue that might be there, but I will tell you that we are in a position that we will complete it, leave our bonds in place, and extend the warranty time if need be. We think that it was seeded I think like 2.5 weeks ago, so it's early for the grass, and this is not the most opportune time of year for sure to plant a park because of the heat, and it's not going to look as good as it could if it was planted, let's say maybe in March, or let's say September, October, because the weather is a little softer this time. Just it's a tough time here to do it. So we would be glad to extend the maintenance period or do whatever the council or the city thinks is reasonable to accommodate the homeowners.
I'd like to just applaud you. I've been a part of that particular project since its inception as a former planning commissioner as well. And it's unacceptable because it will be huge. So listening to you and definitely wanting to work with the city, we like to remain flexible, certainly, because I know for certain that the completion of the park is tied to you being able to release the homes, which we don't really want to hold you up any more so than the city wants to be without a nice park. So I would have to refer to the city attorney whether or not, because it's not an agenda item, it is not on the agenda, but in lieu of what he's asking as far as the release on, how many homes are we speaking of?
I don't know I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number. Just know that they were supposed to be scheduled, I believe, to move in Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, sometime next week. I don't have the exact date or the exact number, but I think it's somewhere around 10.
Around 10 homes, and the reason why I bring it up as a question for my colleagues to consider, well, maybe perhaps you could work with our staff for some additional amenities, because it sounds like you're willing to work through making the park much nicer. For instance, the Bourbon park that was just recently dedicated has a basketball court. There were a lot of kids out there playing this afternoon when I went by there. This park here it's a retention basin. It's pretty deep, and it's made to retain and hold water in the event that we get a lot of rain, torrential rainfall, and our town is flooded twice. So we can consider that, but that's all it is. It's a retention basin with grass and a few trees. So I guess city attorney maybe can help me out.
Well, with the council's direction, we could accommodate the request. It just wouldn't be in the form of accepting the park improvements. But you could accommodate this request and say, up to so many homes, provided it's worked out with staff.
Now that would have to come back to us as an agenda item, though, for us to move on.
that wouldn't. Now the eventual acceptance of the improvements, of course, would. But you could do this in the meantime.
Well, maybe we can.
In other words, by doing this, we wouldn't accept the park. We would just allow accommodation.
Well, I'm listening for accommodation for the 10 homes where you have home buyers, people are ready to move into town and move into the home and make Newman their city. Maybe staff has a couple of roles.
And I'd be glad to get you the number that it needs to accommodate and have staff give a more thorough update. I'm not asking for acceptance of the park, and I don't want any action. I'm not asking for any action. I'm kind of giving a little update because this came to me today, and more so this afternoon because I thought it was being worked out. I told staff we'll do whatever is required so we can accommodate the homeowners. If we need to, I'm happy to we donate to communities fairly regularly as a course of business. And we wouldn't mind doing additional things to accommodate the residents and the community if we can accommodate the homeowners.
Okay.
We just did this in another community we represent. Same idea.
Okay.
I noticed Ernie stepped out for a minute, but Michael, have you had a chance to look at the park yourself, and what you thought about how it was coming along, though?
And also his
grass and stuff and seeding. And
Yeah, it's consistent with the scenario that Mr. Hosteller was presenting. PG&E didn't get water out. They couldn't run the booster pumps, couldn't hydro seed. It's just not taking. And that's the condition of the park as I went out there, and it's still a few weeks away from doing that. But with respect to the subdivision improvement agreement, I guess one way, if and I'm not giving any opinion, if the council wanted to go in any direction, you could give temporary occupancy to residential units without giving a final inspection. Basically, the building inspection department goes out there, makes sure all life, health, and safety issues are all taken care of. You don't give them a final inspection, you give them a 30-day temporary occupancy. You're still meeting the letter of your wording, which says no final inspections will be performed after such date if said park improvements are not completed. So.
Well, I guess I'd be willing to move with some action, Mr. Rosso, taking your word here in public that you will work with our staff for the final improvements on that particular park and perhaps adding some additional amenities. We did give a deference to this particular park. I recall it coming before us and giving you an extension of time. And hearing your dilemma with PG&E,
We know how that's going.
I think the deference was on the first, we're supposed to build half
On
the
the first
park.
half, yeah.
And we decided if we defer the first half a little bit, we'll be able to build the entire park before the acceptance of phase 3 rather than
Right.
just half of it.
and since that hasn't happened, you know, we look at, and I think just speaking on my behalf, of trying to be flexible, working with you, you come before us with something that sounds like a plausible plan, and even willing to, as you say, reach into the hat or, you know, to help with some of the amenities, because right now it's relatively plain, that would be something that I could support with the temporary occupancy that was given.
Well, let me ask that before we even delve into what additional amenities, if any, we're going to do. Is that the option that our community development director put in there as far as temporary occupancy permits? Does that work? Does that satisfy the needs that you're talking about?
That would take care of the homeowners. I think all I want to do is deal with the homeowners issue, because they've given notice, and I don't know exactly how many. I'm not going to tell you that all of them have, but I would have to believe that probably half of these homeowners are going to have some issues about where they've got to be and expect to move in and those kind of things. I don't want to create a hardship on them. We thought we were doing the right thing by completing the last half of the park early when we thought it was complete, but the city's position on that is somewhat different than what we're accustomed to. It's our first one here, and we'll know that in the future. Now, I don't think it's the wrong position for the city. We probably were, let's say, maybe somewhat naive in assuming what their position is based on what we've done in other cities. So that's okay, and we're willing we're going to learn from that. So we build parks in the future, we'll ask the answer, like, what is complete? Because I haven't seen it anywhere in any of the agreements, what is the definition of complete? And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, I just haven't seen it. So, and I'm not going to say that we're builders have been around more than a year or two, and I think that we have to take responsibility to know where we're going and what's expected of the city and the staff. So, and I think it's also reasonable if the city can accommodate the homeowners, that we accommodate the residents and the community by adding additional amenities to that park. I think that's reasonable to do that from our standpoint, if the city so desires to help create some additional benefit to those homeowners out there in the way of occupancy or whatever. I just like to work it out for the homeowners and make sure that the city gets the park in the end that's quality and maybe a little bit more than what we even agreed to do. And I'll say this, we would be happy, whatever, I don't know who specs the parks and what goes into the park, but to make things a little simpler, I mean, we would be willing to add an additional at least $25,000 either in a play structure or a basketball court or a combination of two, up to an additional $25,000. If I don't know who set that, because I wasn't involved in that. Okay. But whoever wants to design that, I mean, I'll go on record for that tonight, that the city can decide where they want to spend that money, and we'll have the landscape or the appropriate contractors install those additional improvements over there.
Well, I think that's a stand-up commitment, and I'll speak with clarity where my decision base comes from. It comes from what I think is in the best interest of our citizens in this town. Mm-hmm. And it's not from a developer's perspective or someone that wants to move to the town in general perspective, but the residents that are currently here. And definitely we come with open arms for people that are going to become new residents. But just to put that in perspective, I've talked to some residents that live at 21 Park Circle, right on the corner across from the park. They're unable to use the park. The park is not useful. So when I view a park as being completed, it's a park that someone can use. They have a dog, they can walk their dog in the park, or they have children, they can play in the park. So that's the perspective that I've gone from. Maybe we'll have to define that more definitively for developers. But I for one, like the commitment, particularly when we can possibly get additional amenities to the park.
I know we've
Any
pretty
other
much
comments?
spoken down at this end.
David?
Yeah, I understand his dilemma there. The reason that we don't accept the parks is the condition that one is now. If you look at Creekside Park, for instance, when the grass was growing very well, but it was 95% weeds. And so it's coming around now where they're getting rid of most of the weeds, but it still is not, it doesn't compare to, say, the Bourbon Park that we just approved a couple weeks ago. And you say there are approximately 10 homes or whatever. Now, so we approve, okay, you can move people into 10 homes, and the park is not approved. Now, what happens when the next group of homes is ready for people, they want to move in, the park still isn't ready? And when is this going to be? I mean, so we'll...
Well, I should clarify my offer. I was hoping that if we do additional work in the park, additional monies to the park, and we extend the maintenance period on, let's say, like an example of 60 more days, that we'd have the people move in phase 3 that need to move in while the park is going along. And I don't disagree with your policy about when you accept the park. We didn't have a clear understanding of what we thought the park needs to be constructed. We thought the verbiage in here said the park needs to be constructed before phase 3 improvements are accepted. We thought it was constructed, although the city's position, which I don't disagree with you want fully grown grass. That's acceptable to us today if that's your position. We'll know that. Certainly I know it today, and we'll know it in the future. And it's good for us to ask the question, what is deemed complete? You know, and I don't have the exact words in front of me here, but it says the park needs to be constructed. Now, there's different municipalities have a different position on when the work is deemed complete and when the maintenance period starts. So I wouldn't argue whether yours is right or wrong. That's what yours is, and I'm willing to accept that.
Well, I'll speak from an economic sense. The homes that are being built over at Ranchwood are, for the new homes, are some of the most affordable ones in our town in comparison to the other developers. There's other developers that are currently in the audience tonight that have been looking for a variance on their subdivision. And so this council, in the best interest of its citizens, somewhat still remains flexible to work with the developers for new incoming citizens and people that are moving to our town. I think in the best interest of what we've been shown tonight and in our discussion is that this goes back, you go back and work with our staff for a 2-week period, because we meet again in 2 weeks, so we can have something in front of us that's worked out in an agreement with your commitment that you've given us, that we can take action on, that'll alleviate the new homeowners that are currently ready to go situation. That's just a 2-week period, and I'm sure with all that excitement, it'll just ball up a little bit more, where they'll be that much more happier moving to Newman. But that way we can have it in written form and a good understanding, so that the park can be completed in a timely fashion, rather than, okay, what my colleague just brought up. Well, what do we do now? We're just going to continue to release the homes without the park being accepted by this city as being completed.
I would agree to that, the first group of homes, the 10 or whatever.
Limiting it
Yeah,
to the
but
10.
then come back in 2 weeks and let's get a little more definity on this as to what it actually did say in the agreement with the
Okay.
park and all of that. Is that fair enough?
I think if I heard you right, that we can accommodate 10 people, but past that, we have to be back here in 2
Well,
weeks.
if it's 10, 12, whatever the
that,
group
and I'll
is,
give
the
you
initial group is.
Right, just to accommodate whatever it takes to get us through this next 2-week period,
Right.
and we'll come to an agreement. That's good enough. That's acceptable to me.
And meet with staff, Public Works, and,
Mhm.
you know, Michael also. They know what we want. They know what an acceptable park is. They're the ones that have signed off of them, and they'll fill you in and what we want.
Our relationship has been very good here over the years, and this just came to a surprise to me today. And Ernie and the staff has always been good here. Mike Holland and all any staff we ever dealt with over has been very good to deal with over the years. This come as a big surprise to me today, and of course the gal that was dealing with it, she's only 24 years old. She didn't want to come to me tonight. She was in like halfway in shock. She's going to have 12 homeowners on her next week. She can't move them in. So I said, well, I'll go over there and deal with it. I'll have to be the guy that goes on the hot seat and deal with this issue here. See what we can do. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other non-agenda items? Okay, agenda items. An item comes before us, and you'd like to speak on the matter, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and please keep your comments under 3 minutes. Number 9, public hearings, we have none. Item 10, consent calendar. Item A, approval of warrants. Item B, approval of minutes of the July 13, 2004 regular meeting. Item C, resolution number 2004-32, a resolution requesting that the Board of Supervisors of Stanislaus County consolidate the City of Newman municipal election to be held November 2nd, 2004, with the presidential general election to be held on the same day. Item D, adopt resolution number 2004/33, releasing a mortgage lien agreement on certain property owned by Troy and Darcy Souza. Item E, approve a memorandum of understanding between Stanislaus County and the City of Newman regarding use of equipment acquired under the California State Homeland Security Grant Program.
I just have one item to be pulled from the approval of warrants. Warrant number 027-087. There are tenants in my building at 1220 Main Street.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull consent calendar item number D as well. And if there's no further, I'll move that we approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Which item was that again, Charles?
It was warrant 027087 to Precision
Can
Inspection.
you pull that to abstain from it? Then I'd move that we approve the item pulled by my colleague.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
4-0. One
Oh, sorry, Tim.
Mr. Mayor, I pulled item number D just for a brief comment. If everyone recalls, this was one of the loans that we approved as a city to help out a business and a mortgage lien, and I just thought that it was appropriate that we're releasing it because the funds have been paid and done in good faith. This is part of the program, the facade program. You heard from our city finance director, staff report, someone's coming for their first home loan. And these programs, I think, are very beneficial when we talk about affordability and coming up with some kind of subsidy to help. That's part of what the city does. And people taking advantage of it is a good thing. We've seen a lot of that with our facade programs in town. I just wanted to make that comment. Keep coming to us. We have this funding, some of the grants that the city has been awarded, and that money's just sitting there, and we like for people to take advantage of it because we get these kind of positive results. And without any further, I'll move that we approve consent item number D.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 11, regular business. Item A, adopt resolution number 2004-34, a resolution approving an increase in lot coverage requirements as specified in the Newman Municipal Code R1 zoning district, Hearthstone Ranch Subdivision. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As you know, this is the third continued meeting for this request. At your previous meeting, you asked to see disclosure forms and a resolution for this project. Copies of the disclosure form have been reviewed by the city attorney, have been provided to you as well. The thing that we requested that it add was it specifically indicates on what the lot coverage will be, so people are aware of how much additional lot coverage they would be allowed. Also, one of the conditions that we're asking the council to adopt is that all buyers of lots exceeding 40% shall sign the form, since they are going above the 40% that's allowed by ordinance. They should, be signing on that. And then copies of all signed disclosures shall be sent to the city of Newman so they can be placed in the address file, so we can make sure that everybody who's getting these lots are signing them, and we can place it in their address file in case they do come back at a later date and try to get a structure that's too large, then we can refer them back to this disclosure that they had signed during escrow period. So with that, staff's here for any questions that you may have.
Michael, how does this apply to the rest of the city? Let's say, for instance, we have someone that comes forward and they want to increase their building to 50%. Will they be granted that privilege?
No, this would only be unique to, and it's spelled out in the staff report on the variant, this portion of Hearthstone Ranch and its lots 2 through 52, 54, and 72 through 176. We do have other processes through the variance process that people could go by to receive this additional lot coverage.
I think we're creating a real problem here because, first of all, this form they're going to sign when they buy the home, is that a form that's going to continue as far as on that house? I mean, like when that home is sold, will it also be applied to the next purchaser of that home?
You can require that it be recorded as part of the title and deed.
You would forward on, if the house was put up for sale again, that would be one of the disclosures that would have to come up.
Yeah, I would, to fully make sure that I would, if that's the intent of the council, then I would put the requirement in there that they record it to the property. So that way any title report that does come up, the full disclosure is on there and it will show up in the title report.
I'm still concerned. We're talking about some small lots, and you're going to put 50% on those lots with the building. And I just think what's going to happen, you're going to have a lot of building on a small lot. And you're going to create something in Newman I don't think we want.
Just for informational purpose, typically these lots are 6,500 square feet and larger. They're not. I wouldn't be honest with you. I wouldn't consider them on the small side. I would consider the house on the big side, as opposed to, you're not putting a regular sized house on a small lot. You're putting a big house, which is currently unavailable in this market, on a typical sized lot, and that's where you're getting the lot coverage exceeding our standard. What you're doing is they're trying to touch a part of the market that's not represented here, and they're trying to do it on a typical sized lot, which gives you the overage of lot coverage.
When you say they're trying to touch a part of the market, what part are they trying to touch?
They're trying to touch the size of the house. Currently, no one offers houses in over 3,000 square feet in the city of Newman because of one, lot coverage requirements, and then the other one. So I'm not saying a pro or a con. I'm just trying to give you examples of why it is. So
I'm concerned what we're going to have in Newman. We're going to have everything is not going to be applied equally. We're going to have an area in town where they'll allow 50% coverage. In other parts of the town, they will not. And I don't know if you find that acceptable. I don't.
To be honest with you, I
guess I can
opinion.
actually offer a contrasting view, taking into consideration your concerns, because that was what, when it was first presented to us, the overwhelming concern that I had, and taking into consideration the workshop that I've had along with Councilmember Reed, my comfort level has risen for a couple of reasons. For one, the consideration of the lots. We dwindled it down to, out of the, I think, 157 lots, to 16 that actually would have more trouble with the actual lot coverage. The variance per se, there's variances that the Planning Commission gives for people to want to build a tool shed or do an addition to their house, where our actual setbacks from the rear fence yard is 10 feet, and we have 5 feet on the side. On the onset, when this came before us, I did look to perhaps keep the lot size 8,000 square feet or larger. And going through the aspect of looking at it more definitively and looking at exactly which homes would be affected by the greater lot coverage, I've conceded to this particular variance where we're actually allowing a subdivision to come in with the 50%, if so voted that way, because of what it offers and what it offers to not only the general market that's still moving to our town, but for some people that might be interested in selling their home and moving to a bigger home, even within our residents here. I know of a couple of people that have actually sold their homes and have bought into the new subdivisions. That's where I base my decision, not just to make a simple exception or be so well accommodating to developers, but looking at it in a general sense is what I've said in clarity before. Our town is growing unquestionably, but we're in a sense of making decisions to manage that, and I think we should offer something that is not already here. That's just the viewpoint that I have, and I've felt comfortable now with all that we've gone through. David, I see you ready to make comment.
Do we know how many of the lots are actually going to, the building's going to exceed the 40%?
We do know, I left that information in my office, but we do know, and there's a number of lots that are going to exceed 40%.
I'm just concerned, same as Councilmember Martina, about the setting a precedent, where theoretically, okay, we say this is only for this subdivision, which I don't see any real problem with this, but say another developer comes in and says, well, you did it this one, and I want to do the same thing, and we say, no, you can't do that. So he takes us to court and can never tell what happens there, or HCD, either one, they can require. So I just have some little bit of trepidation there about the setting a precedent for this thing.
I completely understand the council's concerns, and if you've noticed, I've never really made a recommendation all through this process. I just want to give you the information and let you make a decision on that and go forward from there.
A couple of weeks ago, I spoke out in favor of this, and there hasn't been anything that I can say that has changed my opinion as to this being a good idea. I know the concerns down at the end over here with Bob and Dave regarding this business with this variance, but there is a variance process, and I think that we're going to look at projects based on each individual project. I mean, I think we're looking for high quality projects that are coming into town, and I think this is one of them. As far as Tim said, this is a market, they're trying to reach a different market than we've had built here in town, and they've done their marketing, and they believe that they will do well with this particular product that they're building. I don't see, ultimately I believe that as long as the city is doing its best to bring a good quality project to town, keeping high standards, I think the market will see whether or not this does well or not. And I think we're making a big mistake if we don't allow this. And to say that the next guy down the road is we're setting a bad precedent here. The next guy that comes down the road, I'm going to look at their individual project that they bring forward to us based on the merits of that project, and that's I'm simply going to look at each project individually.
I find that unacceptable, because what I find is it's not uniform across our city. And I think anytime we start to create these little pockets, we're asking for problems. And you have to ask yourself, who really benefits from it? Does the homeowner benefit from it? He gets a larger home. Who's benefiting? I'm just saying we have to look at this, because the thing is, we may be making a big mistake here if we start this spot's an area that where this sized home is okay in one area and it's not okay in another. I find that unacceptable.
But to answer your question though, Bob, as far as who's benefiting, ultimately, as I stated with regards to the market, people aren't being coerced to purchase their home. They're purchasing their home because that's what they want to make it, is their home. they've gone to that home and decided that they want 3,000 square feet or 3,500 square feet, and they're willing to possibly sacrifice a little bit of backyard, a little bit of side yard, because they're looking for a bigger home. They love Newman and they want to be here, and if they see that particular home is being offered in the community that they want to live to, they're willing to sacrifice. And I think ultimately, they're the ones that are benefiting from it. They're paying for it, and they're the ones that are making it their home and raising their family. So to answer your question, I would say emphatically that that homeowner is the one that's going to benefit.
Well, he may benefit, but that same home on a larger lot's gonna cost more money, and that's the thing right there. And I really think that it's important that there be uniformity across our city as far as the lot size and what percentage a home can be on a given lot. And anytime we start getting away from that, then we create some real problems. I think that the council should be looking hard at this one.
To answer Charles, I think that there are a lot of home buyers, particularly commuters, that are looking for more home, less lots, so there's less maintenance. They simply don't have the time for it. And I sympathize with them, and I don't think this is a bad idea for this 50% coverage on this particular thing. But I just feel that we're setting a precedent, and it could get a little out of hand.
I think, and just agreeing with you, David, I don't think we're setting some enormous, monumental type of precedent. And the reason why is one of the things that you stated was, well, what is the next developer going to say, or what is someone else going to say? We have a variance process. If an individual homeowner wanted to come and build on their property where it would extend beyond what our zone says, that has happened. On numerous occasions, people come before our planning commission, and I'm sure our community director can attest to this, and they ask for a variance. Now, that's just one homeowner. A builder, we're going to take in the merit of each development that comes to our town. Currently, we're annexed out. So in other words, we already know everything that's on the table. We have Sherman Parkway, which is the next big project that would come before us. And that one's been delayed, as I understand. And so with that, I'm looking at this on an individual basis. And one of the things that it was whittled down to in terms of it being proposed tonight, where I feel is acceptable, was that it was construed down to only this particular development, which we did not open it up for the entire 354 odd homes. So in other words, even within this Hearthstone development where there are 3 different builders, the other 2 builders are not allowed to build out on this 50% aspect. We whittled it down to just this one builder. I'm comfortable with it because I think that we're not hastily making a decision. This has come back to us. We've gone to it in workshop form, and it's something that I know that is agreeable to me, and I'm ready to move on it in motion form. If there's any further discussion, I certainly would lend ear to anything else any of my colleagues have to say.
Well, the other 2 builders in that particular subdivision are building smaller homes anyway, so that's why they're not.
It's not a question.
Questioning it, no.
And
I think any other place would do the same thing. But you may have another builder who wants to come in and build larger homes on lots, so.
And I guess the only other point that I think that Councilmember Martina touched on that kind of struck me was the uniformity aspect of our town. I like the variance. I like our town to look a little different. We have an old town. We have some new town because of new homes being offered. We also facilitate keeping our downtown as very historical and in nature of some development that's been brought before us, or aspects of key development, perhaps some townhomes being built at the end of Main Street that goes over towards Knob Hill. Looked very traditional, but it would be brand new. But the look was something that would fit in very nicely with our town. I think we need to keep our options open. And because they're offering something that's different, a larger home, something that there's a market for, I think that we should not handicap ourselves. And I would move that we'll hear from staff, but when it comes to motion, you should hear from there.
No, I'm going to agree with Tim and Charles, I don't have a problem with this. I mean, if you look throughout the older part of town, there was dozens and dozens of houses that probably had 60 or 70% lot coverage. My house that I live in probably has 60%. I have no yard at all. And, you know, like you say, every house is unique, every area is different. And I don't have a problem with this at all. I'm pretty confident that they're not going to build a humongous house on a 4,000 square foot lot. I mean, who would want to buy a house like that where you couldn't even go out your back door? In this disclosure, I'm confident that, people will understand, and like you say, some people do not want a yard. They don't want any work at all.
Smallest lot is 6,500, is that correct in this
That's my
development?
understanding,
And the
yes.
largest lot is 18,000 square feet.
How
So
many lots
just
do
that you know what we're looking at, they have a lot over there that's 18,000 square feet. So there's a variance there in lot size, and I think the average lot size was around 7,500 or so. But they have some that are 10,000, some that are over the 7,500. So in other words, we're not looking to just all of a sudden cram. That was our concern. We're not looking to cram a whole bunch of big houses on small lots where you get that look where all the houses are tight together. That's why we took the time before this came before us again to be able to make this decision.
I will say one last thing, and then I won't say any more. I think we're going backwards. I think, I own a home that has a lot of home on it. And you really don't have a backyard. You don't have a backyard at all, and that's what you're going to have. Homes that don't have backyards, or very little backyards. And I just don't think that's truly what we want in this city. And that's the last thing I'm going to say.
I just have one more question for our attorney. Tom, what do you think if we did this for this one unit and another developer come out and say, I want the same thing, and we say no, what are the chances of him taking us to court and winning?
Well, I think you said it best. You never know what happens once you get over there. But I think it doesn't set a legal precedent. It may set a precedent for the practical argument that you did it for so-and-so, you should do it for me. But I don't think it sets a legal precedent.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if you will, anyway, there's a resolution that's attached, so any resolution for approval or denial would reference that resolution number 2004 next in line. There's some wording on top for you there. Also, just so the public knows, there's 154 lots in this subdivision, and the average size is close to 7,000 square feet, and 6,500 is about the smallest on there.
How many at 18,000?
Just one.
I don't remember. There's only one at 18,000, but there's more than probably a dozen or so that are over 10,000. And out of the 154 lots, I think it was like 30 that had a backyard that was 20 feet or smaller. So 120 of the 154 will have more than 20 feet of backyard in depth, and some of them have up to 40 feet of backyard.
And we only require 10?
We only require 10, yeah. And I think the ones that had 40 were about 35 or 38 of the 157.
38?
38 had more than 40 feet, but about 120 had more than 20 feet.
Even with the 50% lot coverage.
That's correct.
Any other questions for Michael? Comments? Direction?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2004. I will make an addendum or addition to the resolution that upon selling, the owner selling this home, that disclosure be added. I would like that wording added.
I think the way to do, would be to have it recorded upon receipt.
Recorded as part of the title process.
So let's add that language to the resolution. A resolution approving an increase in lot coverage requirements as specified in the Newman Municipal Code R1 zoning district for D.R. Horton Western Pacific, Inc.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Marquez?
Yes.
Martinez?
No.
No.
Mayor Canestrino?
Yes. Item B, adopt resolution number 2004-35, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a subdivision improvement agreement with Park Estates LLC and adopting final map number 00-01 Stevens Ranch Phase 4.
Thank you, Mayor, once again. This is the fourth phase of Stevens Ranch. It's actually phase 2 of Stevens Ranch 2, but for simplistic purposes, we're going to call Stevens Ranch phase 4. The applicant is Park Estates LLC, and once again, they're asking to record final map 2000-01. With it, because some of the improvements are not complete, we have a subdivision improvement agreement on there. Some of the numbers in there may change just because we're going to, Public Works Department's going to go out and do an inspection, and some of the improvements that are already done, they don't have to bond for, so those bonded amounts may go down just a little bit, but that doesn't affect the integrity of the actual document itself. All the verbiage will be the same, and all the fees doable to the city of Newman will be the same. So, with that, I may answer any of your questions that you may have.
Questions for Michael? Direction?
I move we adopt resolution number 2004-35, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a subdivision improvement agreement with Park Estates Limited Liability Corporation and adopting final map number 00-01 Stevens Ranch Phase 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item C, approve the purchase and installation of a landmark clock in the Newman downtown Plaza location.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Evening, council members. This is a clock that is part of the Plaza plan that originally came up in April of 2002 before the council, where they considered a request from the Chamber of Commerce to put a landmark clock in the downtown area. And the council deferred the decision to the Streetscape Committee for review, and also asked the Business License Surcharge Committee to review it. In 2003, the Streetscape Committee did include the clock in the Plaza revitalization plan. The committee has been subsequently renamed the Plaza Committee, and they thought that this should be budgeted with a cost of $15,000. And then this Plaza Committee met again in June 12th and reapproved the concept of this clock. And then on July 26th, the Surcharge Committee met and also approved the landmark clock proposal. Mr. Bob Nouveau is here with some details about this clock. I believe we have some superimposed pictures of this clock in its approximate location across the West Side Theater. This item is we're requesting that this be approved with funds not to exceed $15,000, and Mr. Nouveau can talk about the cost. The Women's Club, the Newman's Women's League, has agreed to donate the cost of up to 6 yards of concrete for the foundation, and this $15,000 request would include the clock and the cost of constructing it, its site, and hooking it up so it works.
A nice solid base there at the bottom.
So I'm going to introduce Mr. Bob Nouveau to make some remarks. Bob, do you know that woman personally? Or?
No, I don't. Actually, I plucked that off of the internet at the clock company's website.
She's like the salesperson then? Or?
I really don't know. I think they just put her in there for sale. And where's an officer when you need one? Somebody do something about that music? Holy cow!
Hey, we got the top cop.
Yeah. Okay, Honorable Mayor and Council, I thank you for this opportunity to come before you. I believe some of you have seen me up here before regarding the same issue, and I will tell you I'm very, very pleased to be at this stage of the process. I passed out to the council just prior to the meeting scope of work that's going to need to be done to erect the clock in its proposed location. The current slide that's up is actually the location that I think is probably, I don't want to prematurely position the clock, but obviously it needs to go to the Plaza Committee for recommendation. However, we've looked at this pretty extensively, and I think putting it in the middle of the crosswalk gives a lot of balance to that whole area. In spite of RRM, who I highly regard and respect for their opinions, they had decided that the clock should be moved over to one side, but I think if you go over there and look at it, it just throws everything off balance because of the scale of the clock. And I'm not suggesting that it's too big. I'm just saying that given the way that area is laid out, to me it just makes real fundamental sense to put it right in the middle and balance everything. And I do know a little bit about balance because you know what I do, and I try to keep that. That is my whole focus on my job when I work, is that it balances, that everything has some symmetry to it. And I was a little surprised when they did offset it, and you know, they're the architects, but I do know a little bit about making things, and I like the center location. Of course, you can see there that it's without the pedestal. I inserted the pedestal on the other one and didn't have time to do it on this one, and so if you can just imagine that concrete pillar is going to be there. And in your report, you can see that I've broken it down into 3 elements: the electrical, the concrete work, and the installation of the clock. And I don't know that I need to go over all of this for the record. You have it before you. The one important aspect that I would touch on that I just received late this afternoon, I had an opportunity to speak with Ray Little, the city's inspector, and brought the topic of the base to him and explained to him that I've not had any official word that says we have to have that base on there, but it makes sense to me when it was presented to me because we're in a seismic zone and because Newman, for those of you who aren't familiar with our seismic situation here, we have a situation that is known as liquefaction, which means that the ground literally turns to water during an earthquake. And for those of you that weren't here during the Loma Prieta quake, it did. There were many places along the sidewalk on Main Street where the underneath the sidewalks literally bubbled up like a little volcano out of the sidewalk, and the sidewalks buckled. And those of you that were in the downtown, you might remember that your doors were a little harder to open and windows were a little harder to open, and that's what that's all about. And so this clock weighs 410 pounds, and it's 15 feet high. And so when 2 years ago, and I don't recall who told me this, but I know we spoke with an engineer, and they said, you're going to need because I brought that question, how big a pad do we need? And he said at least 4 foot square. So if we had that, and my original thought was put 2 feet underground and 2 feet above, well, Mr. Little said, no, you can't do that. The reason that they want 4 feet in the ground is because it gives you that side sway motion protection. And so that you never saw the 4 foot. That got pulled out of here early. So we're going to need a 4 by 6 foot piece of concrete. And that's still well within the donation of the Women's League. I spoke with American Transit, and my question to them was, how big is a 4 foot block of concrete? And he said, well, you've got 6 yards. It's half of that. Actually, just slightly less than half of that. So we're going to be okay. We've still got a lot of concrete. They are also considering the funding of the rest of that part of the project financially. They've not raised a hard decision on that, but it's something that they are considering. And so the additional costs that might crop in here are, one, Mr. Little said that pillar will have to be seismically engineered. So that's a cost that none of us have talked about, and I don't know what that's going to be. And I don't even know who's going to do that. Or, I don't know. I guess it's going to be up to the city to decide, and staff, where do we go next with that? Because I understand the liabilities that the city incurs if we don't do that.
That probably just means putting extra rebar in it.
That's what I was thinking. You just beef it up a little and it should be fine. I'm going to leave all of the details of where undergrounding is and all that other stuff. I've laid it out in my report, what needs to be done. One of the questions that was asked of me at the meeting on Monday morning was, where can we put the clock if it's ready before that's ready? And the yard at the water tower is certainly large enough to hold that clock. It's only a 15-foot box, and the only issue is we will need to have somebody there to unload it off the truck. Or I talked with the clock company this morning. They would be willing, once they know our construction time frame, to construct the clock in a manner that it would be ready when that's ready. And then they would ship it, and it would be shipped directly to the site. We wouldn't have to store it anywhere. The only thing that I was thinking about is that coordinating, the arrival of a truck and making sure the crew was there. But obviously that's not my problem, but it's an issue that's going to have to be dealt with. The rest of the details I think are in the contractor's hands and in city staff's hands. So if you have any specific questions about the style of the clock, just for information for the public, my recommendation is going to be that we put on the face of the clock, and of course it's still going to have to go to Streetscape Committee or Plaza Committee. City of Newman, established 1888. It'll be on all four sides. Clock will be lit. The style of letters and the style of numbers would be Roman numeral or Arabic. I think is something left to the Streetscape or to the Plaza Committee.
Looks good. Let's get that lady out of there and we'll be in good shape.
She doesn't come with a clock. She's probably somebody's grandmother and doesn't want to come to Newman anyway.
I think that, Bob, we ought to explain that the funds for this clock is not coming out of the general fund or anything like that. It's coming out of the business
That's correct.
license surcharge.
Business license surcharge for those of you that...
And it can only be used for projects to improve the downtown and things like that.
Correct. And
We're
if
not
I...
taking away from it.
No, if I might just give a little history for those folks that might be watching. The business license surcharge came about a long time ago. And we, at the time, I think I was either president or at least on the board of Chamber of Commerce, and we needed garbage cans and we thought we needed bike racks, and we came to the city council and they said, we don't have any money. And so we said, well, how about we do a self-imposed tax to all the businesses on a business license, and we collect that money, and over a period of time we'll have enough. We can go do these little amenity things and make Newman a better place for everyone. And so that is a self-imposed business tax. It's not a, coming out of anybody's pocket down or out on the street or even from this council, unless you happen to frequent our businesses, and certainly you're helping to pay for it in that manner, and we do appreciate it. So, any other questions or comments that I can address?
Questions?
I just have one quick comment. I think my opinion, listening to Bob and all the work that he has done on this, I think one of the reasons why the city of Newman has always done well for itself over the years is because we have usually used our resources that we have locally wisely. And the only thing that I would hope in this is that as we progress, that Bob continues to take the lead on this, that the city staff work with Bob and, develop a good plan, because obviously, this is something that Bob has talked about for a long time. And, this entire downtown revitalization is something that we have all talked about for a long time. But that would be my only recommendation, is that the city staff, keep Bob completely in the loop and we move forward that way. That would be my only suggestion.
Bob would be in charge of polishing it and keeping the pigeons off too, right?
No.
And setting the time.
I'll set the time. I assure you.
A large ladder.
And just as a real quick comment, if for those of you that didn't get a chance to read the report, this clock is really simple. That being my background, I checked into it. I wanted to make sure that it was something that we could handle and that we didn't have to call in some outside
simple
technician from Iowa or someplace to have to come out here and mess with it. And I explained my background to the fellow, and he says, hey, anybody on your city maintenance crew can take care of this clock. It's that simple. So, and I've looked at the thing, and so Ernie's going to do a good job for us.
They'll be knocking on your
But I will
door.
assure you this, as long as I'm here, if they want me to, I'll be more than happy to change the time on it for daylight savings time.
There we go.
Yes, I will wind it every day, in spite of it being electric, Tom.
And I think it'll be good, like I was saying, with having Bob taking the lead, just on recommendations, with regards to location, with regards to the different type of fonts that he was talking about, and just the different things that are, going to the best extent possible, make it, as attractive as possible. So that's, the direction that I'm going in with that.
Well, the mayor and I were in concurrence with the location. We agreed when we walked by that area, looking at the placement of it, it made a lot of sense where you're talking about it should be placed. And I just would like to commend you. I mean, we hold our meetings by a timepiece that was donated by you. So this project is an excellent one. I think the time has come now, because I know before we were a little hesitant about putting the clock up without the Plaza project going forward. But now that all of the streetscaping is done, the theater lights up at night, Ragtime is playing soon. That's a really, really nice, another marquee for our town.
I like the 2-foot concrete base for it. It has a sort of a natural deterrent to keep people from using the crosswalk as a driveway.
Yeah, well, you know, I would hate to see us spend all this money and then a week later somebody drives right through the middle.
We'll need all that retrofit and rebar and.
Yeah, it's gonna take
Go
every
4 feet
the
down.
way some people drive, it's gonna take all of that.
Do you have any questions? Bob, thank you for
thank you very much.
for your guidance and your planning on this. Appreciate it. We have some direction then?
Recommend they
Yes, sure. Go ahead, Mr. House. That way.
I thought I'd say a couple of things here. This is one of the first council meetings I've been to in some time here in Newman, and I appreciate the dialogue the council has between them. They necessarily don't agree on everything as they go along, but as I sat here and looked at that calendar, I felt like that thing said December on it. And as good as the city council and the community has been to our company, Ranchwood, over the years, before I leave here, which is going to be in just a few minutes, that what I'd like to do is contribute $15,000 to the business fund, wherever this money is going to come from. I don't want to take somebody else's thunder for the clock, but I'd like to make a donation because that's the least we can do for the years we've been here, to contribute $15,000 to that fund so that they can do additional things other than just the clock. So that's if that's acceptable.
We'll let the president of the License Surcharge Committee.
Voluntary surcharge, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, even though I'm not a board member, I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
And I really thank you, and I know they're going to really appreciate that because that's going to let us do some of the other things that have been put on the back burner so that we can accumulate the funds to do this project. Thank you very much.
Well, I think you can thank the council because with their pro-business attitude and their demeanor and the staff we've always experienced over the years here, and I apologize for some inconvenience that we brought to the meeting earlier tonight that came on, but I think we have a responsibility and we owe it to put something back to this community more so than we've even done in the past. I know we've done a number of things in the past, but I happen to be sitting here tonight. I felt, at least if we can have Oxley for our residents, I won't get fired, so it's at least worth at least 15 grand to me to figure it out.
Mr. Hutler, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have to know, it's good every once in a while we can have someone come before us and their word is their bond. It's nice to have that. It's refreshing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, I'd like to make a motion, we approve the purchase and installation of landmark clock in Newman downtown Plaza location.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item D, designation of voting delegate and alternate voting delegate for California League of Cities Conference in
Thank you, Mr.
September in
Mayor.
Long Beach. Oh.
Would you like to address on this? No, let me just give you a little background there. The league conference is going to be September 17th through September 19th in Long Beach. The mayor and several council members have indicated their intention of attending. They have written us a letter the league has asking us to designate a voting delegate who will be able to attend the business meeting on Sunday, September 19th at 10:15 in the morning. And they have a form they want us to complete to designate who the City of Newman's voting delegate will be. So that's why this is on the agenda, and I leave it to you to sell that.
I'd like to nominate Dave for that, if he so choose to be the voting delegate.
I second.
You just want to keep me there longer than the rest.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure, I'll be happy to.
I second that.
And Tim will be the alternate, right, if need be.
Well, I was actually going to defer. I was actually the voting delegate most recently for a special meeting in Sacramento and then last year. But yeah, if need be, I know that David will be there though.
Okay.
So we can just do that by concurrence. I don't think it really. We usually do appointments.
I'm reading what
Need a
it says
resolution?
about the alternate. I think you just need to designate the primary person and
Yeah, it says just designated.
deal with the rest informally.
Okay.
I move that we nominate Councilmember Dave Reed as our voting delegate at the 2004 Annual League of California Cities Conference.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item E, consider placing direct growth initiative on the Newman ballot.
This is, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, this is a very brief 25-word ballot initiative that has been circulating around Stanislaus County. The citizens of Modesto voted 2-1 in favor of it in 2003. Councilmember Parker asked this to be on the agenda. This initiative would just contain the following language. The voters of the City of Newman advise the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors to direct urban development into the incorporated cities of the county. This will minimize sprawl, reduce transportation costs, maintain farmland, and secure the fees necessary to provide for the cost of needed services. We've been informed by the registrar that this would be no additional cost to put this on the ballot, and that we've also been informed by her this it was probably ignored by the Board of Supervisors. Just as a side, like they were asked to put it on their ballot countywide, and they refused.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not going to like it.
No, but that's why this is up there, and other cities are going to be considering doing this too.
I think, thank you, John, for that report, and I would like to just, on John's coattails, as the person that brought this to our council, I was in conversation with one of my colleagues in the city of Modesto, and their overwhelming 2-to-1 vote got my attention. We certainly, I think here on the west side, have a pretty fair understanding of what's pretty good for us out here, given the fact that we've had some dealings, particularly with the county, that we've had some issues with, that we've taken issues with. And I think it's only appropriate that we let the people of our town speak loudly in terms of how our town is to grow and the urbanization of it, with us being primarily agricultural farmland. And just to give you an idea of a couple of things that did hit our town that became very controversial, right off the top, the landfill issue, of course, and then of course one that has not been an issue for quite some time because of air quality controls, the Tartare plant. And those were two things that I could cite right off the top that were instituted through the county. So I think it's a fundamental measure myself, and it allows the people of our city, through their votes and the power of their votes, to send a message of how we think our town should grow in the surrounding area. Thank you.
Very well put, Tim. Thank you. We control our own destiny. That's what it's all about.
Dave, did you have?
No, I was just going to say maybe we should save this for the 17th when the supervisors are here.
We're going to pass this before they show up.
Yeah, the only concern that I have with this, and obviously in theory this is good. I know some 12 or 14 years ago there was Measure F that was on the ballot that was actually binding and had some teeth to it that pertained to growth. Now, this is simply advisory only, and it states here at the very bottom with the fiscal impact that to put this on the ballot is unknown at this time. That's pretty much the one thing that's one of the things I'm concerned about. But again, the main thing is that this simply, and the key word being in this analysis, is that the voters of the city of Newman advise the County Board of Supervisors. And, you know, all of us who live in Stanislaus County know that the biggest developer in Stanislaus County is Stanislaus County. And I think it's going to take something more than just an advisory type vote for them to change their ways. They're simply not. I mean, we all know that growth that's contiguous, growth that's infill, that, you know, avoids sprawl onto ag land is obviously the best way to go. Unfortunately, the board for the last, 15, 20 years has not abided by that policy, and as a result we've seen numerous battles with the county with regards to infringement upon our outside boundaries, different zonings, different things with regards to zoning that takes place that aren't always advantageous to cities. Case in point being when the county built patches right outside of the Turlock city limits. I mean, I know I'm digressing a little bit to commercial, but I mean that's simply the case with residential as well. And I only oppose this. I am in favor of the theory of this, of the county not being the biggest developer and directing the growth to the 9 local cities. I mean, I think all of us completely agree with that. But unless there's something, I'd like to have something with regards to the total cost before I'm going to put something on there, because quite frankly, and I know it sounds pessimistic, that simply putting this on the ballot the Board of Supervisors themselves, when City of Modesto's committee recommended that it be placed on the ballot, refused, because obviously they know that that's a source of revenue for them as well, and they're not about to. So I would be inclined to not vote for this based on it's not having any teeth.
For clarification, when I did write the staff report, I did not know the cost, and subsequent to that, I've talked to the clerk and found out, because this is a consolidated election, the election costs are already being incurred by the city, so this could be added at no additional cost.
Okay.
That I found out today.
If it's not, I mean, let me backtrack on that. If there are no additional costs, then obviously if we want to send the message via the voters directly, because I know we have, as a council, stated to them, in no uncertain terms that we felt that the direction of growth should be in the 9 incorporated cities. I mean, if it's not going to cost anything, and if we can make a statement to them, then so be it. But I'm just concerned that it doesn't necessarily have any teeth, and that they're really not going to do much by way of this, regardless if it's 100% to 0 vote. I think the county is going to continue to be the biggest developer in the county, regardless.
And we really don't have any way to put teeth in it, I don't think. That,
Right.
I know exactly what you're, I'm sorry, Dave.
No, that was it.
So I agree with what you're saying, Charles. In the past, this has been talked about for years, but I think the tides are changing. I think, there's 2 new seats on the board, and I think they're starting to get the message from the meetings I've been going to. I think something's going to happen. I think, there's possibly going to even be 3 new seats on the board, and I think they're starting to listen to all the cities.
I think this is also a part of voters, and let's just be frank about it. This state has had a change in governorship because the citizens of this state were feeling as if they were being ignored. And I've heard far too often where our town has felt like it's been ignored. It's been ignored. We're on the west side. We're Newman, and as if we're not even on a map. And I've seen some maps and been offended by going to a meeting where there's everyone in the county and they have every city listed and not the city of Newman, which is in Stanislaus County. And that offends me, and I'm going to speak out about it. So the fact remains is that we're in the positions we're in because of voters. They're in positions that they're in because of voters. And I think it was very well spoken by you, John, that you see a change because it necessitates the electeds to listen to the people. And ultimately, they hold the power with their vote. I think this sends a message. It will send a message. And I agree with you, Charles. It doesn't have any teeth per se, but there's an underlying message, just like what we're dealing with right now, negotiating with the state and our state legislators on behalf of the local and our funding issues. There's a swell going on to say that we're right here with you, and we're going to have them adhere that we do have something to say, and you best listen.
Could I ask the city attorney, does this need to be in a resolution form? No?
No, just directed. The clerk just wants something that says we requested it to go on the ballot.
Okay.
Well, I move that we place a direct growth initiative on the city of Newman ballot for the November election.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item F, designation of board member for the Stanislaus Economic Development and Workforce Alliance.
We received a letter from them. They are on a fiscal year basis, and they would like to consolidate their board members for a 2-year term. Would like it to be designated this time, and the mayor has been on the board member to this point, and I believe he indicated a desire to continue in this role as the city's representative on the Alliance committee. And so that's the extent of this item before you on the agenda.
Yeah, I'd be happy to represent Newman on this committee, at least until, the first of the year when we so choose to look at all our appointments again, boards and commissions that everybody's on, and we'll see how it looks then.
So move. Doesn't seem a reason. Why are we looking at this midstream again? Is this because of their year or something?
They have some private industry members that need to be reappointed every year, and then they asked us to redo ours so that we're on the same calendar so their whole board is on the same schedule. So that's
This
why
is the one that you currently have been serving on?
Yes, yes.
So far,
Personally.
only 3 of 9 cities have done this, so they want, trying to get every city to confirm their.
So we're on the same calendar.
Well, I move that the mayor continues his participation on the Workforce Alliance.
Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item G, request for direction on allocating travel and meetings expense from a combined council budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a line item in the budget called travel and meetings with $7,500 in it for the council members, and including the mayor. This used to be $15,000. 1,500,000? No.
15,000.
Boy, things were good back in the good old days. No. Wow. $15,000, and then as a cost-cutting measure, this council cut it in half. And the note in the current budget says that each council member will be given $1,250, and the mayor would be given $2,500. But after talking to one of the council members, he recalls a even split. But what the issue is, we have sometimes a council member will exceed their $1,250 in anticipation of that happening. It has not happened yet, but I'm asking you to consider what we will do in that situation. Can it be just simply a communication from another council member saying, let that person spend into my quarter, I have no problem. If that was in an email format or a written format, that would give us some record so that we can, at the end of the year, we won't go over budget. We have something that tells us that we're going to keep within the total $7,500, or we could even do something more formal, divided up by account number among council members, but that is, the finance director is glaring at me now. There'd be 5 times as much headache. It would require an action of this board for any member to go beyond their allocated limit, and that's not a good idea. So I just brought this up for direction because we are starting off a new fiscal year. We want to make sure that we do not create a situation where some people are uncomfortable about requesting funds or that they go over budget by mistake. So I just brought it up for discussion and clarification.
Well, I wanted to comment and say I appreciated seeing it on actually an agenda item. I know it's something that's come up and we've discussed informally amongst ourselves to some degree, but I like seeing it for a matter of clarification. I, for one, I think on the city's behalf has been probably traveling and going to a few more conferences more so than my colleagues, and I like to make it distinguishable where there may be some type of question. I know that I've talked to Charles in specific because of his military duty, knowing that he hasn't been in position to take advantage of any travels on behalf of the city. One clarification that I like that you brought out was that we took it upon ourselves as a council in these budget shortfalls to cut our traveling expenses from a once designated $15,000 to half, which is 50% to $7,500. I did recall us kind of splitting that up, roughly $1,500 each, in a discussion informally, and I know that staff is seeking some direction. I, for one, wouldn't want to handicap any of my colleagues any more so than I would want to be handicapped if they're not using any of the funding to conduct business on behalf of the city. With that in mind, we, and the finance director can correct me, we were allocated $7,500 for last fiscal year, and I believe we actually were not over budgeted, but under budgeted by at least maybe almost $1,000. Is that correct? So in other words, last fiscal year, travel expenses amounted to about $6,000, which we're being conservative. And I know that in the event that I attend an additional conference other than the one that I'm attending this weekend, I will carry over, I believe. And I certainly would not want it to be any distinguishable aspect from my colleagues. So I just wanted to state that and state it openly. But I like the fact that we have this in an open forum so we can give a real definitive, clear direction because I think it's important. And one of the things I think, too, David, if you recall, that we shouldn't have expenditures coming out of our pocket in terms of travels that you've had, the mayor's had on behalf of the city, in terms of it becoming a little more intrusive to your own personal finances. So, with that,
Yeah, I just,
charge.
I think it's important that,
Not charge it to a credit card, but I wanted to say that.
Chief, is that you?
I think it's important that each council member, I'd like to see every council member be able to go to all of their conference, there are 3 or 4 a year. Obviously, we can't do that. One conference pretty well takes up that $1,250.
Yes.
And I just think that any other ones, particularly Tim, in your case, where you'll be a moderator at this one this weekend.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That we ought to look at having the league maybe cover these expenses on that, where you're actually doing work for them.
I will agree. I actually
And it's always been for different things that you and John both are on committees, so you have one down south and one north every year.
yes.
So the league has always said the Central Valley Division will pick that up.
Yes.
But we have such a hard time collecting that from them. I think we ought to really push these people and make sure that we're reimbursed. You know, sometimes it can take 6-8 months to get reimbursement if it's ever there. And I don't know about the rest of you. I'm sure the rest of you do too. When whatever we get per month is usually a lot of that is spent on travel and going places too.
Oh, you mean our monthly
City,
stipend?
city, yeah.
The $100
City stuff
yeah.
too. But no complaints.
That's
about
true.
that. I just would like to see. We have to watch our budget, of course, and just make sure that we don't go over. If, as you say, Charles maybe can't go to any of the conferences, so and he's willing to give you his. I don't really see any problem in that. But I think that any time that we do work as a moderator or whatever for the league at their conferences, that we should be the city should be reimbursed for that.
I will agree with you, and just to state that, actually, I participated during the Planning Commission conference, Planning Institute, and under those guides, there was no monies or no charges incurred by the city of Newman. However, I was there in representation as a city councilman for the city of Newman, was very well received. And then just one aspect, I think because we've discussed this before in this setting, the reimbursement aspect from the Central Valley Division, we should have a running account, particularly with the policy committee, state policy committees that myself and John sits on, because those funds are reimbursable. And I think one time when you were the president of the Central Valley, David, I think we weren't requesting it. When we were talking to Margaret, we didn't actually know that those funds were reimbursable through the League of California Cities. And I think that we should keep a diligent watch to make certain that we're requesting the funds as well, as not just letting it slide by and coming out of our fiscal budget.
The problem with in the latest couple of years with the Central Valley Division is you're supposed to have a board meeting every month and a quarterly meeting every 3 months. Well, I think in the last 2 years we probably had 2 quarterly meetings in the 2 years, and I don't think there were any board meetings per se. So it just, you know, if there's no meetings, they can't approve the reimbursements. So as I say, it may go on and on and on. You'll never get your money back.
What about that last meeting that was in Lodi?
That was, I tell you, there were 2 meetings. There was one in Lodi and one in Merced, I believe, this year. But last year there was one in Lodi, and that was it. So
Did they approve our requests at Lodi? Do you remember or not?
I don't know. There hasn't been a meeting since.
Do we make a request for
think we have.
reimbursements? Because I know
think
that
so,
we
yeah.
talked about it, John and I, for the amount that we should be reimbursed for policy
I'm
commitment.
trying to think. I think I went.
The thing is, the cities really have to push them to get it, and it shouldn't have to be that way.
Judy's indicating that there was a request and it was either not taken up or was it denied?
It was not brought up as
Wasn't brought up at that meeting.
that
and voted
meeting,
on.
no.
I think it's something too that given the fact that this particular mayor and council forum is one that will be greatly attended because of the budget deliberations at the state level, there is a board meeting, and that's something that I would address because we've stated it as a council for those things that are outside the realm of the city where we're participating in representation of the city on a league level, that they should be reimbursed. I think that could be addressed directly with the board to get some definitiveness, because I know that for certain that I've participated, you have, David, and the mayor at divisional meetings where there is a funding amount and those funds are being distributed and we vote upon it for other cities, and we're entitled to reimbursement just as well as any other cities.
I can send Debbie Olson a collection letter.
There you go. Tim, if you run into her over there, tell her we're mad.
Our league rep?
Our league rep, yeah. I'll call her to remind her to.
Well, any funds we do
checks in the
receive,
mail.
we could put back into this budget, and we will. But for right now, could I get a indication whether or not you would communicate to me when you indicate or desire that another council member is going to be taking some of your allotment for this year for travel?
Yeah, I think we need clarification there, because the thing with is, if the mayor has 2,500 and each one of us has 1,250, I still think that each person has to be responsible for that amount that they're allotted, and they should not exceed that amount. And even though the total is 7,500 for all of us, that doesn't give a person the right to go into that unless they've been given permission by another council person or the mayor himself to take their funds.
Well, that's
agree.
where I'm looking. I'm looking for direction from the council member who wishes to donate, not the donee.
Well, I can tell you what, if I don't, and probably I will have money to donate, and that's the thing. If I don't go to the League of Cities, then I will donate my.
Just, if you could email me that, then I'll know, and for whom it's to be used, then we'll be sure we stay under the total $7,500.
My situation has been obviously the most unique of all, because I haven't had the opportunity to go to any of these conferences. So obviously I have the entire amount of funds in there. But I think one of the problems that has been discussed here is regards to reimbursement for things that are outside of just the purview of the city of Newman, that are more related to, you know, other specific committees, whether it's being a moderator or other such type things. And I think that has a lot to do with it, with the fact that there are dwindling amount of funds based on our lack of our inability to get funds that are due back to us. I personally don't have a problem with you know, making funds available from you know, each one of our sections. I do know one of the things that we did do in the past, and you know, certainly Bob can recall, is that we always pretty much, I think, had just a gentleman's agreement where we would, you know, we knew stuff was coming up, a certain conference, or you know, be at the annual conference or one of the other quarterly ones, and we all pretty much, if there were some that were more adamant about going to that particular one than others, then you know, we all pretty much said, you know, why don't you go and why don't you go? And I mean, I think we pretty much left it at that. I think we've always pretty much done things in the spirit of, you know, our ability to communicate with each other, and you know, and I think that's a good policy. Again, just to reemphasize the fact that I think part of the issue comes from our inability to get funds back that are pretty much outside of that particular purview. If we could be a little bit more aggressive on that, then I think we could continue to maintain our, you know, gentleman's agreement that we've had over the years with each other. As far as my funds, they're certainly available to the other council members that could utilize those conferences. One of the things that's unfortunate, and this will be the last thing I say, is that unfortunately it seems that the conferences themselves aren't really the big ticket items. It seems that, you know, the hotels and everything, that we don't necessarily always get the best rate from the league, and it seems that we were out shopping those rates ourselves. I know it's going to take a little bit of time to do that, but I don't know, it hasn't seemed to me that we have always gotten the best rate. And, you know, maybe we could do something with that might alleviate some of it, but I think there's a number of things.
And I think too, on your coattails of that comment, that we do try to take cost-saving measures. And one, for example, I can give is, I know for certain that the mayor offered his room in Sacramento during League Legislative Action Days, where I was our voting delegate for a special meeting that was held. Well, I stayed with a relative. I have a relative that I was able to stay with and actually commuted during that particular stay, because that way the city wouldn't incur any hotel costs. And I think it's important that we continue to do that to some extent where it may be appropriate. But you're right on point. And I think the overall objective, though, David, when you started out in your comments, was that we remain on budget for the amount that we have allocated, that we definitely don't have an over expenditure for our travel expenses. And one of the things I would state too is there's an enormous amount of time that's given that you have to balance, that I certainly have to balance as a full-time employed police officer in the Bay Area. And I know, given Bob's work situation and his aspect of having to commute, that there's a time element that you're delicately balancing with your commitment, Charles, with the service right now, and then given the aspect of the mayor being a little more available, certainly being here in town, but also having full-time employment. There will be some times, certainly, David, because you're retired, that you'll have much more time to be in those positions to represent us, where we'll be inundated with other priorities, not given the opportunity, because you know, I only have so many weeks of vacation per year. And,
unfortunately, when I retired, I don't have as much time as I did when I was working. So
is that what I have to look forward to?
you keep into things, you know.
Yeah.
So we got this figured out then? We're going to arm wrestle for the Charles's portion then?
Well, Charles will, Charles on record that his full amount is available. And I think I will just allocate it as needed, and I'll probably come after you if I need some more.
One other quick thing on this that we might bring up later is there is, I think it's every year now in January, they have a conference in Sacramento just for incoming, well, primarily for new incoming councilmen and mayors, that is really the only one that you really learn a lot in. So anyone new I think should attend that, and that should be a separate.
Do you know what the date of that is?
I don't know what
January.
it is.
January.
It's in January.
Yeah.
Middle of January.
There might be a reason why
And I think anytime we have a new council member,
I agree.
anything,
Oh, I
think
agree.
that,
Yeah,
that
it's
should
important.
be a separate entity. Yeah.
It might be a little risky for a sitting council to always budget for that.
Yeah, you pre-planning.
Very good point.
It's probably a good idea.
And just for the record, I go to a lot of meetings, and you know, haven't been turning in mileage for them. And the only time I really turn in a mileage if I go more than 100 miles or I have to stay overnight or something like that. But I probably go. Lately, I've been going to Modesto at least twice a week for 911 or solid waste or one thing or the other. And just for the record, Charles is going to give me I might turn in a few more miles.
And it's important too, because I think oftentimes you probably do like I do, and a number of us do with our monthly stipends, $100 per council member and $250, the big bucks to the mayor. We use that to compensate as well, just to make it a measure of, well, we know why we do what we do, and it's because of the service to our community. So I'm glad we had this discussion.
The price of gas, that's one fill up.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, we're done. Got that all squared away. Are you happy, John? Are you understanding where we're at? Or
Gentlemanly agreements.
I do. Well, I'll be getting clarification if I need. But I think we're fine.
Okay, thank you. Item 12, items from the city manager.
A couple items. On the subject of travel, the city has increased the business and travel accident policy for employees and council members to $500,000. The RMA, though, has a form that needs to be signed because the city and the beneficiary of that individual will share the the proceeds of that policy should anything happen to the covered individual. And that's a relatively new thing. So we have these what they are is they look like resolutions, but they're signed by your beneficiary, basically saying if anything were to happen to you on a business travel or accident, that the $500,000 award would be split between the city and the beneficiary. That is to help pay for the cost of your loss to the city, and of course the remainder of the other half goes to the family designated beneficiary.
Wow, my wife's gonna be happy to hear about this.
Well, you have to be on city business when it
I
happens.
better be careful on my drive to Pacheco Pass tomorrow, huh?
She can't bump you off in the back.
Oh,
And so we'll be distributing those forms. Also, as you know, the county fair, Monday, August 2nd, is a day where the city, the county clerk is going to be demonstrating the new election equipment out at the county fair, and they've designated this to be Newman Day, and we're going to ask council members to attend this booth, space 47 in the commercial building. We're going to have some nice material to hand out, some commemorative pins from 5 to 11 on Monday evening. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know. We'll give you the materials, and you'll be able to see this new election equipment and also talk to people about City of Newman.
Is anybody from staff going to be there?
We could possibly arrange it right now. Ernie asked if it's near the beer garden, but right now we don't have anybody official.
no, I'll be attending, and we're also throwing in a few chamber stuff and some fall festival information and different things. So
I'll be out there for at least an hour.
I was gonna say you don't have to stay long on that.
It's from, what's the time? 5 to 11?
5 to 11, but I'm sure that things kind of, on a Monday night, because you're kind of dead at the fair on Monday night at 11 o'clock.
No tokens for beer though.
I don't know, it's summertime. But yeah, I should be able to make my
We
way
will
out there
reimburse
for about an
you
hour
for
or
the
so.
entrance fee,
Yeah.
out of your travel budget.
I'll use my monthly stipend for that one.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Is that it, John? Thank you. Items from city council members, Dave?
I don't have anything right now, I don't think.
Okay. Bob?
Just to follow up, John, we talked about graffiti, and I was just wondering what we've seen in the city, and are we getting ready of it within 24 hours, or can Ernie or anyone know what's going on out there as far as graffiti?
In talking with the public works supervisor, they're immediately responding to some of the graffiti that's out there. The last one that reported it happened to be just chalk markings on the fence out by somebody's house, but we followed up on it, wiped it down, and we're staying on top of things.
I know, I just drove the alleys last week and I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Great.
Very good, Ernie.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Charles?
Nothing.
Tim?
I just want to ask a quick question of you. I saw where we had this draft analysis of the Oris Timber Creek alternatives. Was there a meeting, I guess, recently? Or?
It's coming up.
Upcoming meeting, the 4th?
Yeah,
The 4th
Michael Holland's going to be there. They're getting into a very technical phase of these engineering things, and that's why we shared this with you. They asked that we didn't distribute this because it's a draft of all the alternatives. They asked it didn't become public knowledge because this is a draft. It's going to be whittled down. The Army Corps of Engineers is going to end up with being asked to make a recommendation out of all these alternatives. And so the county has done a lot of work, and we're now starting to see some of the fruit of it.
Okay, great. So there's some progressive action going on there.
And I'm not sure, I'm going to try to make it. I'm not sure if I will be or not. Sounds like this is like a hash out technical deal where, you know, you can have 2 kick boxes, no, we want 1, back and forth. 5 trees, 10 trees, and one of them deals.
There were like 52 pages of the rough draft.
Yeah, it was rough. Like you say, it's a rough draft, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is that it? Thank you, Tim. And I had nothing this evening.
Move that we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Hey, buddy. You know, it's a direct.
No, I got to leave time.
Yeah.